Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Therapists. For this episode, I'm very pleased to welcome Margot Borden. Margot is an experienced therapist, and we're very excited to hear what she has to say about a variety of topics involving spirituality, psychology, and overall well-being. So welcome to the show, Margot.
Thank you, Ben. It's good to be here. Delighted.
Yeah, great to have you. So we've got a great list of questions here, and we really want to find out from you about all of them. So let's get right to it. Our first question for you today is, what do spirituality and psychology have to do with each other?
Okay, so psychology is really how does the mind function, and spirituality is about the soul, the innermost light, the essence of your being. And so psychology, like going into the mind, not just the outer mind, the beliefs, but the innermost functioning, the emotions, the psyche, it helps us to understand and navigate through the mind home to the soul. So for me, spirituality psychology is the road home to the soul. So it is spiritual, essentially, as long as we don't stop at a finite definition of who we are, because then we limit our potential. So when the more we open into the inner functioning of the mind, the more I want to use the word psyche because it's more of a larger definition, we start to see the limitations, the rigidities, the ways where we align with our potential, and the ways where we forsake our potential, and we learn to navigate differently until it all becomes open and fluid, and it's like we pave the way to walk down into the soul, which is the innermost part of our being.
It sounds amazing. It sounds like a journey that maybe a lot of people haven't yet encountered in their lives.
Yeah, I think many people sense that there's more to them, that there's an inner longing, or there are intuitive experiences or premonitions or kind of non-ordinary experiences. So they have hints that something's there, and we can either turn away from those hints, or we can shun them, or we can not know how to listen to them, or we can listen and open and explore and almost treat them as light posts, that are lighting our way home. And that's really what my work involves, is treating those all those experiences, those inklings, those spiritual longings, the sense that I am more, the sense that the kind of the sense sometimes we can get of being pure, of being whole, but then we get caught up in life and in our limitations, and we forget. But to come back to the essence of who we are.
Yeah. When it comes to these longings, I think a question that may come up is, well, if let's say life has rules and structure and obligations, and then there's also the longings that we have. And maybe some people are brought up to say, well, your job is, or what you should be doing with your time is meeting the expectations and the discipline, the things that you need to be doing, as opposed to the longings that you feel. And I imagine a lot of your work has to do with figuring out which of those two values does one respond to.
Yeah. So that brings up an interesting topic, which is either or thinking, which comes from the left brain, which is logical and linear, and as opposed to the right brain, which is holistic and sees the bigger picture, and it's more inclusive and more. And so that in the right brain, which is we think in terms of both and, not either or. And both and thinking is extremely rare. I find when whatever I'm reading or encountering, we're mostly in kind of this limited either or. Either I do what I have to do to survive and fulfill my obligations, or my parents, society, my partner, my kids, whatever, or I listen to myself and become Buddha and leave everything else behind. No, it's both and. What happens if we find and align to our innermost essence, to our greater potential, to those deepest longings, and find a way to stay aligned to that while going about my actions in the world? And imagine how our actions in the world will resonate at a different level, and that what we give to the world becomes more whole and more wholesome and more meaningful, and how that can not only affect us, but it affects everyone around us. And as therapists, it affects our clients. It's far stretching. It's infinite.
Wow. Is there something that you tell your clients? Because I imagine, as a therapist, one has to believe that one can integrate and thinking into their lives and move away from the either or thinking. That's part of what one must believe to believe that their clients can get somewhere. What do you do to try and get your clients to move along that shift?
So belief is of the mind. It's I believe this, and faith is of the heart. So I show them the way through. Sometimes just through experience. I believe that any change or transformation doesn't happen through thinking. It happens through the feeling, the inner ways of knowing. And so I use ways of bringing people down, introducing them to themselves at the level of heart, at the level of body, and opening and expanding into the greater and greater depths, which is again the light posts into your greater potential. So bringing you into the felt experience, a different way of knowing that feels a lot more authentic than the flatlining methods of the mind, which seem so real but are very finite.
Yeah. I like to compare the mind. It's like, certainly when it's like in the either or, it's like a tennis volley or ping pong or any of those things. And it's just hitting back and forth and back and forth. And if you ever watch tennis, tennis goes on forever. Like you can watch like one of those closely matched tennis matches, and it's like Sampras and Agassi or whatever. And it just they never end. And I think that's kind of like what goes on in the mind. It goes on. It doesn't go too far. And at some point, just someone gets tired and it ends, or someone makes an unforced error, which I think could also be attributed to the mind. And I was going to say, Margot.
The mind is one way of knowing, and the heart and the gut are yet other ways. And the mind is finite, and it helps us, but the heart is infinite. And not only is the heart, because the personal heart, it's actually been scientifically measured by the HeartMath Institute that the heart is, it connects to the world heart. So that when I connect into my heart, I connect to the world heart and the soul of the universe and all of nature. And then the mind is there to put words on it and convey it and understand it. But the mind is finite, and yet it's all encompassing and very distracting. And so we can just spend our lives trying to, sort out the mind or live in the mind. But when we open into the heart, we open into a different way of knowing that is felt and like inner revelation, as opposed to thought, which is unidimensional.